Carnivorous plants and man-eaten trees have fascinated people ever since the 1800s, ever since Charles Darwin discovered that plants could indeed eat insects and other small animals in the 1870s. Sensationalist newspapers quickly jumped on this trend, starting in 1874 when stories of the Madagascan man-eaten tree first reached the West. The earliest known report of a man-eaten tree originated as a literary fabrication written by journalist Edmund Spencer for the New York World newspaper. Spencer's article first appeared on the 26th of April 1874, soon after Charles Darwin's discovery of carnivorous plants. In the article is a letter from an alleged German explorer called Karl Lech, who I found no information of because he probably didn't exist, and in the letter it talks about him witnessing a human sacrifice in Madagascar, where they fed a man to this gigantic killer tree. The article caused quite a stir amongst the readers, feeding into this racist narrative that people in Africa were backwards and the animals and plants there were unique and mysterious and dangerous. The article spawned a whole host of copycat stories and other articles wanting to financially capitalise on the story. It wasn't until 1955 when cryptozoologist Willy Ley wrote in his book Salamanders and Other Wonders, exposing the 1874 article as a definitive hoax. He determined that the tribe mentioned in the article, the Makodo tribe, was fictitious. Karl Lech likely didn't exist because there's no other primary source relating to him, and therefore the Madagascan man-eaten tree appeared to be a fabrication. Ley wrote that the facts are pretty clear by now. Of course the man-eaten tree does not exist. However, in this video we're not focusing on the Madagascan man-eaten tree. If you want to find a video on that, I'm sure there are plenty of other ones on the internet. We're focusing on the Indian mouse-eating plant. Unlike the Madagascan man-eaten tree, the Indian mouse-eating plant seems a lot more feasible. The Indian mouse-eating plant was first mentioned in the 1924 book Madagascar, Land of the Man-Eating Tree, and it was written by an American man called Chase Osborne. Chase Osborne was a very interesting man, and throughout his life he had more jobs than Johnny Sins. Some of the jobs he had was American politician. He was the governor of Michigan, 27th governor. He was a newspaper reporter, publisher, explorer, author, postmaster, iron ore mining prospector, hunter, railroad commissioner, and game and fish warden. None of these jobs were particularly linked to the study of plants, but nevertheless he decided to write this book. In Madagascar, Land of the Man-Eating Tree, Osborne describes the Indian mouse-eating plant as a plant that eats both large insects and mice, although it prefers mice, I assume, to get more nutrients. Allegedly, the mouse was attracted by what he called a pungent odour that emanates from the blossom, which encloses a perfect hole just big enough for the mouse to crawl into. After the mouse is attracted by this smell, bristles come out, trapping the mouse, and the more it struggles, the more the bristles hold it in place. After the mouse is dead, digestive fluids come out and quite literally digest the mouse, which the plant then absorbs. Osborne notes that this plant is a native of India, and it's interesting that he notes this on the 3rd page of chapter 1, especially on a book about Madagascar. He notes that it's not being classified as belonging to any known botanical species. Osborne, unfortunately and unhelpfully, doesn't give us a source to this information. However, he does say one interesting thing, that the plant can be found in the London Horticultural Hall. The fact that he claims that the plant can be found there does give it a bit more credibility. Osborne was living in America at the time and unfortunately couldn't just pop over to the London Horticultural Hall to view this plant for himself. As luck would have it, I managed to find the entire journal of the Royal Horticultural Society from the year 1924. Disappointingly, there was no mention of a mouse-eating plant from India. I also had a look in the 1925 version, just in case the plant was categorised in that one for the previous year, but again, no luck whatsoever. Although there was included a 1924 image of the Royal Horticultural Hall, which was interesting, so I included it here. The idea of a mouse-eating plant may seem extreme, however the largest carnivorous pitcher plant in the world, which you can find in Borneo, a sort of Venus flytrap on steroids, has been known to eat insects like ants, as well as larger prey like frogs, lizards, even birds, and especially rats and mice. This plant was first collected in 1878, so would have been known to Osborne, making the idea of a mouse-eating plant actually seem rather reasonable. Cryptozoologist Dr. Carl Schuker actually views the idea of the Indian mouse-eating plant as more believable than the Madagascan man-eating tree. He says it's very similar to a regular pitcher plant, only with the addition of spikes, reminiscent of those of sundews. Other carnivorous plants actually have spikes as well. The Venus flytrap has spikes to trap its prey, but these aren't to enfold it or impale it like the book describes with the Indian mouse-eating plant. The fact that the most promising piece of alleged evidence that the plant appears in the London Horticultural Hall cannot be proven makes the existence of the plant a bit shaky. If the London Horticultural Hall really did have an Indian mouse-eating plant, surely there would be a lot more attention brought to it, and it would definitely make it into the journal and probably a good few many newspapers as well. There are actually quite a few carnivorous plants in India today, and you might think that this makes the idea of the Indian mouse-eating plant more plausible. However, the largest carnivorous plant they have, called the Indian pitcher plant, only eats small prey. A sample of 90 Indian pitcher plants in eastern India showed that 90% of the animals they killed were insects, and the remaining 10% were spiders. So in the wild, the Indian pitcher plant catches insects, and maybe the occasional spider. That's it. No frogs, no birds, and certainly no mice. To sum up, whilst the Indian mouse-eating plant is incredibly interesting for cryptobotany, it doesn't seem to be backed up by much historical evidence. There's no evidence it was shown in London, there's no evidence from Indian authors or historians, and there's no current botanical evidence to suggest that carnivorous plants can even eat prey that big in India. So unfortunately for now, it must remain a cryptobotanical mystery. Now thanks very much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.